Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. We are in the first elite traders members TA that we're gonna start doing once a week. I'm very excited to have you all guys here. I'm gonna keep the chat right here to make sure that I don't miss any of your questions. This is just 7 people, so we can ask all the questions that you want. I'm gonna keep an eye. Jose from my team is also helping me today, so he's back in the scenes. In case I miss any questions, he's just gonna ping me to make sure that I don't miss anything. Remember that we are gonna cover the coins that you guys selected. I have the full selection in here. Let me refresh the poll. Next week, we're going to do precisely the same. You're going to receive another article with an invitation to vote again. So if you need an update on some other coins, we can do that too. I think we're going to manage to do everything. I have hopes that we can cover Solana, SUI, ONDO, BTC, AAVE, ADA, Link, TRAC, which I never saw before, but I'm going to keep an eye. I think it's an AI coin. And last, Ethereum and XRP, interestingly. If you have any specific questions about the coins while I'm doing TA, let's say I do TA on RSI and the basics, and then you want to see liquidation levels or something I missed, we can go back, we can check that out. Or if you have a level that you think is going to be resistance and you want some feedback about something unique, your train of thoughts, that's also fine. In general, I'm going to focus on the weekly time frame to get a big perspective of things, but I can also drop the time frame. I got the chat right here, and I can see Neapolis, Cristo, Gabor, Samuel, Jose, of course, and the rest are still quiet. But let's see if there are questions coming later. Let's start with Solana. That is the top one selection today. And what I see here is what I've been seeing for already some time, which is a double top that had a neckline at 180. It goes so far high, it goes into $300, and with a neckline at 180, really puts the target at $60. That's kind of the scary bear market kind of target. That target has been there. Interestingly, we have already done 68 out of $112, so more than half of that it's already done, and now we are approaching the X symmetrical triangle, and now it was support for a while. Now it's resistance. We are below the triangle, and we are testing it as resistance. That resistance is around $140 at the moment. I can see that for 2 consecutive weeks, we've been trying to reclaim 130. 130 is also very important, almost as important as the symmetrical triangle, and that is because it support all this period 1, 2, 3 times. Let me see one thing. So we got Solana 2 tops at 250, 1, 2, 3 top, 3 bottoms at 130, and now we are approaching that 130 as resistance. So it's in a critical situation at the moment, we could say, and it's the same for the RSI. It looks like really messy, but I see things in this. You probably know that. So we have the breakout in here on 23rd of September, one level down, double bottom, pump to there. I think we trade this thing, if I remember right, into the 63. Then we lost support for first, second, third time, 3 times support in a row, lost. And now we are at 38, and it's the lowest it's been since September 2023. So it's pretty much giving up all the momentum back to all this area around here. Of course, not as low as the actual bottom of the bear market, but pretty significant. So we are closer to the bear market. That's another reading. So if we go lower just 10 points, we kind of get to the same momentum on the FTX collapse. That's how far we are from that. So another thing I could say that is actually bullish is that thanks to that, thanks that we are not yet in a bear market, I will say that the bottom should be around here, That's why, even though I talk about the $60, I think that with the liquidity increasing and with now this 30% reduction on the quantitative tightening, that we should have some move to the upside. I think we are very close to a bottom, or either we do just one more level down, but just around the $100, and that's it. And then we should be looking for good longing opportunities. Um, on the going back to the RSI, I'm tracking now this line connected to that pivot, and hopefully a reclaim of the 46. So both things together will be great. I think I left this crazy line in here with more or less what I would like to see, which is first a high, then a higher low, and then a break of this resistance into next targets, and to start climbing the ladder all the way back up this time. That's kind of my bias at the moment. Things that I'm already concerned is how many longs we had in December. And my concern is that although we lost that support in the delta longs versus shorts, I don't like that this retracement of longs is so humble relative to all this move up. So here we went up 63 points, and here we went down just 20. And many other coins, the longs have stepped down a lot more. So that kind of tells me that the area of value is somewhere in here, supporting that a little bit of additional downside. But definitely, we are already in my area of value in terms of the price. So the longs versus shorts phase is not that happy yet, but we have already gone to the massive liquidations. And actually, let's have a quick look at liquidations on the swing chart. Sorry, I click accidentally SUI or SUI. We look at all these levels, 1, 2, and 3, and they're all gone. Those were accumulated before, let's say from around mid-February. Some of them were there from October. So 2 and 2 and 3 here were from October. And the one that is still standing is that $100. And that kind of supports that idea that there can still be one more. So if you plan to enter with 2 orders, I will say where we are is already an area of value. I already say between 115 and 130 is a great area of value. The 150, which I skipped, and then the $100. Below that, there is no more liquidity from this span of time. Of course, if we go way further in time, we can find something else. But then the question is it still there really, or is this just this algorithm that is overestimating the liquidity? Any questions about Solana, guys? Anything that you may want to hear from me? I'm checking the comments now. I don't see anything about Solana. So if we are all good, I'm gonna go to SUI or SUI. I don't know. I still don't know how to say it. I think in Spanish is SUI. All right. I was just doing TA before starting the live stream on this, and I'm not gonna repeat the same thing. Well, but basically we are kind of doing the same we did in here in 2024, and I was measuring how much we have done in this correction on SUI, in how comparable it is to that. So first, I did 2 comparisons. The first comparisons is from the first bearish divergence into the bottom, and then I placed that into the first bearish divergence, giving us a reading of 35. So if we were to repeat the full move of the momentum from the first bearish divergence to the bottom, we still have one more level down to go. But at the moment, we are testing the resistance, and we could end up the week in a breakout right here, assuming that you place the line like this. And let me be fully transparent, because this used to be like that, but I'm starting to have the feeling that, I don't like the channel when it widens up, because it's very unrealistic that we're gonna fluctuate between the two sides. So I'm kind of compromising in here and kind of ignoring the actual top and placing it between these two pivots, and then thanks to that pseudo cheating, I'm getting a breakout. So it's a bit stretching it. That's what I want to say, in terms of this breakout, because I'm kind of collapsing it to almost force the breakout, it feels like. But if we were to do a last flash, that will be into 35. So let's calculate that in the price. 35. That will be a last move into $1.15, 115. And that will be in line with having an extension of one, I think, a little bit further. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring the first drop from top to bottom, and then I try to spot what is the high here, which is not really clear, and it's giving me 0.6, so it's way beyond the 115. So that number is important, and now we're going to compare it with the second approach on SUI, which is to do a Fibonacci extension of the correction. And how am I doing this? Let me remember. From the top of this impulsive move from October to March 2024, more or less the equivalent period, but 1 year ago, and we go down in here to 87, and then we bounce up to move away, that is 117. And I calculate that the extension half is where we stop. So it's interesting, because it means that the correction had a first impulsive move that is very intense, and the second one was half of the first. Some people expect that the second is 1 or 1.618. That's kind of the most popular idea. But if you come here and you accept that this was the dead cat bounce, like going to 35, and we do the similar thing from top to this bottom and then the 35, then the 0.5 has already been achieved. So Fibonacci retracement says that as long as you accept that this was the dead cat bounce, and some other people might say it hasn't happened yet, this is just a single move down. And other people are going to say, well, no, you get this, and then you bounce up 50%. So that's your dead cat bounce. And then another move down after that, which has already pinched once the 0.5. So from Fibonacci perspective, SUI has already done this. From the point of view of RSI, it hasn't. RSI says 113, Fibonacci says $2. That's it. From $2, we are in an equivalent place as we were in July 2024, and therefore we should be expecting some double bottom to confirm this. In July 2024, we did a lower low, and then we started climbing like this, and then we did that. So for that, obviously, we need that liquidity to carry on in the same direction. We need not to have a crash in the general markets. I mean, the typical things. I don't think I have liquidation levels on SUI on the swing, but maybe I have on the scalp. Yeah. Cool. Oh, wow. There is a decent correction right now. Is something happening? I have a question. It will be great for each coin to have an estimate of peak we can reach with the next move up before bear market. Yeah, Neapolis, to do that, I need to make some assumptions, right? So I need to make the assumption that global liquidity carries on pushing higher. And then we need to do a decision. Do we get a mid 2025 large correction because general markets having a crash or not? And I think, how high can we get, it fully depends on that. Just like in the previous cycle, having COVID or not having COVID, the difference is night and day because everything shift one level down. The whole bull market lost the blow off event. Thanks to that, it just reached 69 instead of 150. So you take a big chunk if in the middle of the year we get an actual big crash. So I mean, SUI here, this is 5 minutes. That's why it was looking like a huge market crash. Let's go to 4 hour. Let's see liquidations. So we got one at 1.515 more or less, and it's kind of intense up until 1.4. 1.514 is interesting area for SUI. Where is it coming from? Oh, okay, from the order blocking here. So before the pump, that's where it was being accumulated. And on the top, we got the 5.4 level that is quite dense and is from 5.3 to 5.8 on SUI. So those two levels are very interesting. There's secondary interest, we could say, between 4.2 and 4.6. That could be just a pullback that we can anticipate in some way. So all those levels are around here. And the level that I say on the lower end, what was it? 1.5 to 1.4. Okay. And that is roughly around here. So right below the highs of March on the M pattern, somewhere in there. So, well, we got the Fibonacci talking about $2 bottom. We got some liquidation levels at 1.5, and the RSI is saying that we can extend there. So what do we do with this? How do we take away all this information? Well, orders. That's why we have DCA, right? So we get multiple levels in the ladder in case one fails, and there's the other one and the other one. So in that, if when you plan like this, is there a way to be wrong? Well, yes, if you just filled your first order and then you feel sad that you didn't put all the volume on this, but then you are trading multiple coins. I assume that you're not trading just a single point of failure, in which case, in some coins, you're going to fill one order, in some other two, and some other three, and that's going to give you different exposure. Of course, as you go up, the ones that fill too much volume, you start taking some cutting profits faster than the ones that only filled one order. That's one way of doing it. It's not the only way. There's not a single absolute right or wrong, whatever works best for you. Actual tops. Okay, let's go back to Solana in actual top. So there are always multiple targets. And assuming that Solana manages to recover, and for a recovery, I will say that just hovering around the last line in the sand is a little bit too little, in my opinion. After having had such a massive move down in here, as I say, I would like to see the higher low in there, the breakout and stuff like that. And then this, I wouldn't say this is correct anymore because this is almost lower than that. I like to place Fibonacci when you get a bull flag that retraces no more than 50%. Like, for example, up until there, and I get the move up, then I retrace into some level that is bullish, and it shows signs of bullishness, and then I project my targets. But if I'm coming from the same bottom and I'm already putting lower closing prices below that, it becomes a bit flaky to do that from here. So let's say that was the top, and this is here. An extension of 1 will put the price roughly below $400. I have to do that because from here to there, the retracement is not that bad. That is more or less a 50%, and therefore it gives a higher um, reward, but it's also giving us a higher risk. So we need to consider where to put the stop loss in here, because we are already closing there. So that's why I have this mixed feeling of, wow, best price ever, but Solana is just messing around too much with the risk there, with hitting that. And that's what makes me look to some other coins, because that's the other thing, that people marry the coin and they are, I need to enter on Solana. I must enter on Solana. And then Solana starts misbehaving and they still enter. And then Solana bleeds and they're like, why is it bleeding? Yeah, it's bleeding because it's been bleeding so long. Um, and I want to see a shift on that, to start, turning my head back into Solana and say, all right, now we're seeing something promising. So far, Solana smells so bad that you can just literally flush the toilet at the moment. And that's the way it feels. And SUI targets for, and how high can it be, the target in here? So I'm going to remove the 50 retracement, and I'm going to do, hopefully I do it in the right order. No, I did it in the wrong. Always I do it wrong. Okay, so this looks better. And let me remove the 50, because we are not going to need those below 1. We're just going to focus on one extension. So this to here corrected to 50, and then it put a massive rally. This was huge, and the RSI got into 80. If we were to repeat something like that, we got the $7, that's extension 1, and the 1618, which is $10. Wow, that would be lovely. I would love my bag to get there. Assuming we hold the support at $2. So if we carry on putting a new low, then we need to move that. And then the lower we go, the target goes lower too. So we need to remember about that. I want to put an RSI target. Can I put an RSI target? No, unfortunately, it's impossible. I wanted to talk about a revenge rally, but we don't have that setup here. It's just too far away. I mean, we cannot get into 105 RSI. That doesn't exist. Longs versus shorts, we are in an area of value. We're bouncing from the same area in here. So I think the setup on SUI at the moment is to compare the performance of this versus that, and start finding the elements that are repeating, that are starting to resonate, like those Fibonacci supports, the RSI extensions, and because that's precisely what we did to time the top, right? We timed the top perfectly in here thanks to this guy. So why wouldn't we pay attention to timing the bottom somewhere in there? That's kind of the feeling. Let's go with the next one. The next one is ONDO. Cool. Let's arrange this properly. ONDO is against resistance on the weekly, and contrarian to SUI, ONDO does have a rally revenge. That's if we do something like this. And then we need to see if we break beyond that 53. The resistance is at 44 at the moment on the weekly. And longs versus shorts, I will say that we are around the median at the moment, at around 55. Same area that we were in here. Let's see where we were when we were in accumulation. At that point, we went at 37. Okay. So that went from 59 to 37. So it reduced, how much it reduced? 23 points. And in here, we have reduced 20 points. So this guy from the top reduces 23 points. In delta longs and shorts, this one reduces 20. So we are getting close to that. So if we break out from here, it will kind of make sense. From around here, not from the price today exactly. And I can see I left a target there. I left forecast in case we break out from the neck of, not the neck, the resistance of 90 cents, 9 cents in there. That was support. But so far, we are still battling with that. We are not being able to move up there. Let me see the price of Bitcoin, 84.3. Can someone confirm in the comments? Trump was going to speak today, say something, and I haven't been following the news, and there was some fear. What is he going to say? And so I don't know if that is now kind of spooking the markets, or it was my bearish video about my exit. But we are seeing another rejection at 90 cents. And I will say it is needed for ONDO to break that 90 cents to convince us that we're not going to actually go back to 72 or 59, which are the next two levels. Accumulation, the previous time, happened around those levels before it pumped. So there are two alternatives. We accumulate in here for a little bit longer before we break the 90, and then we have that move up, or we repeat the same recipe, but you can see how long it took from July to October of accumulation, and then we went off to the races. I'm checking some news in here. Trump crypto venture snaps up, but that was March 5th, so that's kind of old. So yeah, that's my target in here, and I think this target of 114. This is an initial swing trade if we reclaim 90 cents, and that is based on going into 53 RSI. Let me confirm that. 53. Let's go to the price. So yeah, that's 1.2. So I guess I did 52 and it was earlier maybe. Or maybe it was around here and I was just thinking that the resistance is 112 and I want to keep it conservative. But if we do a rally into resistance, that gets us now into 125. So let me extend it a bit more. So that gives 42%. You can accumulate in one way to do it is accumulate in this area. Don't just go and enter, but maybe place a few orders in this range and leave some for that. And if it fills some orders in here, then let it ride back up whenever the accumulation finishes. That's kind of the investing kind of approach. On the swing, you could have just one order here and another one there, and then try to exit sooner if that's okay. If it's a swing trade, I tend to take profits quicker, and this will take weeks maybe to play out. Next coin, it's SUI ONDO BTC with 4 votes. So BTC, I did a long video before this one. So I'm gonna just do the executive summary. So on the 4 hour, we had on Bitcoin quite overextended in here. And I say we got into 70, 71. We already hit that top. So I'm looking for best case scenario to start challenging this red line. And thanks to bearish divergences, that's the best scenario that we have in here for Bitcoin to put those highs. But we can see that not even that was achievable. We are already now at 84K. And we're getting closer to the support on the 4 hour of 42. 42, if you wanna re-enter with high risk on support of 4 hour. Is it 42? No, it's 43. It's a bit higher. 43. So that will be 82.8. So high risk re-entry on here for another swing high, potentially into resistance, knowing already that we topped the 4 hour, that it needed some flash there. It's high risk. On the daily though, that we are back below the previous range. I say, we broke out. The thing that I want the most is to defend 47 because the breakout was very small, just 1 point up If we close like this at 45, we're coming back in the previous range. And if we carry on slightly more, by now we are below the 200 daily MA. So if we close below 84, that could be a potential decent entry for a short if you're planning to add more in case it kicks back up with very low leverage. If I do a short, I try to do it with 1x, 2x, because if you have a busy life like mine and you need to react, add, transfer, blah blah blah, all those things, it's just stress that I don't need. But I see people shorting with 15, 20x, and that's just crazy. If you have all day to be there, yeah, sure, but I don't know. I got some other questions. Let me see, where did I read the last one? Which are your favorite coins? You're going to be shocked. I don't have any favorite coins. There are some that are looking better at times. In the bear market, guess which coin I like? None. Nothing. Just cash and shorts, with leverage. Then what is my favorite coin to short? That's kind of the case. But holding, whatever I decide to ever stick with the coin for one full cycle, then in the bull market, I am constantly itchy to get rid of it. And I have gotten rid of already of so many, but I still have some in progress, like Ethereum and ADA, that I still have them in my pocket. Correct about the rumors. He should speak Crypto Summit today, where Michael Saylor will also be present. Mariano, let's pretend you have a couple of leverage shorts of about 1 BTC size at 73K level. Let's pretend that you have a couple of leverage shorts. What is the question? I don't understand. Sorry, I must leave now. Gabor, well, I'll see you later. And we're losing the 200 MA. Well, we're just intra-candle there. We need to lose it by the day to fully confirm. Remember that one of the forecasts was this retracement today with a pinch below. How low you want it? We can go to 81, sure. But if on the daily we close back above 84.1, we reclaim the daily. And that is bullish. So if you are in your short at that point, I break even. Like, for example, let's say you enter a short now at 84.6 and we start dumping into 81, and then we retrace at 84.1. Daily close, boom, I'm out. I'm out even in a small loss, because that wick to the downside looks just too damn bullish. If we close below, it looks bearish. It looks like we are going to carry on going into the bottom of the descending wedge. I hope that makes sense. And what else can I say about Bitcoin that I haven't said in the other videos? I mean, pretty much everything is in that 1 hour video, and I really don't want to take too much time. Unless you have specific questions about Bitcoin, we can do that. But I just don't want to spend time repeating myself, because this is, your value time to ask me your own questions. And I want to give you that and focus on that rather than regurgitating stuff. AAVE, I think there is a bullish setup. There is a bullish setup in here. There is this bull flag that has been for very long bleeding in there, but it has retraced to a decent, maybe golden pocket just by eye. I can see that is around golden pocket. 164, that's where is the current support, the resistance. Let's place it there. And I have already a setup that goes to $245. Now, the challenge is going to be remembering where that came from. And I think here we are challenging the resistance. And I'm going to suspect that I'm looking for a breakout of 43 into revenge areas here, 70. So a rally into 70 of AAVE, that will give us now $447. So let's extend that to there. So that's more or less the rally into resistance. These are moving targets. So do never take a number like this without having access to the chart. Make sure you copy the charts from the tradingparrot.com/charts. And every now and then, if you are trading AAVE and you have cash on that, copy the chart, get a fresh copy of the chart into your account. And once you get that copy, you're gonna see all my lines. You're gonna be able to also see the targets that I have currently there. And if this line also moves in the chart, is also gonna move. That is an initial target. That is just a revenge target. But Neapolis was asking for, I guess, extensions or something more bullish. And I've got a bunch of targets in here that have moved now. No, they haven't. The price has not put a new low. So we are still pointing at $500 extension 1, and 1618 is $700 for AAVE. This in here is just a revenge rally. So that will be the shorter term to do just this. Maybe then you get a retracement and you do something else. But then later in October, December, you put a new high there. And that could bring that, assuming that the liquidity goes in that direction, assuming that there is not a black swan event in the middle. Longs versus shorts, it's right there at the reset area. Is coming out at the moment. It's at 45. A few days ago, we were at 40, and that was below the first line calculated with statistics. The previous one was this. What happened after that? Well, there was a rally into the line in here. And what I'm looking for is, if we get a altcoin season, that this is area of taking profits. So you have targets of price, but also in the delta, you could say that if we get to 70 or 60, we should have an alert to know that around those areas, there is a huge value to take away, to take profits. Let me see. Questions? No questions. Oh, yeah. Let's pretend you have a couple of leverage shorts of about 1 BTC size at 73 level. What would you do at the current moment? Would you close in a loss at the current moment? Wait BTC to reach 72 this week soon? Wait for a bear market? Oh, that's a tough question, and I suspect that I'm giving financial advice on that, and I hope I don't say something. So here's the thing. I'm just gonna say what I think, but I'm gonna tell you, I haven't done the full train of thoughts and to just answer something like this. If I put someone in trouble, let's say it's your uncle, then I don't want to have any responsibility on that. But let's say what I will do. So in areas of strength, I will try to hedge. I will try to put longs in areas where it's very discounted, to ride up and try to reclaim some, and to hedge the position. That if it's 1 BTC and the leverage is very small, maybe with a spot position, you can get that hedge effect by buying double the cost of the position, if that makes sense. Because the problem is, today we had a breakout on the daily. Let's say the breakout was successful and we exit from the bull flag, then it's going to be too much underwater. So in areas where I am buying Bitcoin, to also add to a long, to compensate for how much it's going to bleed if from that area of high value, the short is still open. Yeah. And if there is a huge opportunity, then to have a position that is slightly larger in value relative to the short, so I make some value going up, even if the short remains losing. I think in the bear market, we're going to get to 50s. We're going to get to 40s. There is a likelihood, there is a decent likelihood of that. And it depends also on the fees that you're paying. There's another thing there. Now, it's a short, and funding fees eventually are going to pay you, and sometimes you will have to pay, so you need to keep an eye on that too. Sorry if the answer is a little bit vague, but it's intentionally a bit vague because I don't know when and how big is going to be the pump next time. I don't have a crystal ball, so I just speculate on what I see at the moment, and I don't know if there's going to be a war or if anything like that. So if it is in a bit of trouble, I will say, because there is a good chance that with the liquidity increasing, prices go up. But I personally wouldn't close it. I will do something to try to manage that. I've been in bad positions, and I had to do hedging and all that crap, and that taught me big lessons. Anyways, let's go with ADA. ADA is having in here a double bottom, but unfortunately the second leg is broken down, and it's got some chances of meeting with this white line if it loses 47. I was seeing this today, and at some point it was above the yellow line, and I was getting like, oh, ADA is going to reclaim the lost support, and then it's got a good chance of a pump. We will have to see on a weekly closing basis how are we with this trend line. So we're going to need here an alert to tell us how we close the week relative to this. So if we get a cross above the yellow line, it will be great to get an alert to know that this is crazily bullish. If not, if we are below the trend line, then we will know, okay, there's more downside for ADA. From the point of view of price action, we have some signs in here. Let me concentrate. So we have a high at 120. The actual high is 132. This is lower than that, but we have a higher low so far at 70 relative to 68. And we are starting to get bought up quicker. So we reach 51, but then just 57, 64, 68. So it's kind of squashing in here. And this was the pump trump on Sunday, the day after the correction. And that level of support is because of March. And now we're below it. Ooh, so many things. I mean, when you're a trader, there's always this mixed bag, and you always have to come up with what matters. And that's the toughest part. We need to accommodate this. This forecast is no longer valid in here. It needs to go lower. I like that we are defending the 76. I don't like that we are below the March. And I would like to see a reclaim of March closing price of that 73. And also, I like that we haven't entered back into the falling wedge. In many coins, we had the breakout, and then we went below 54 or even 42, and that's a disaster. But this pump, this is the craziest retest ever in history, and then just sideways. So what ADA should do next, if it defends that level, we should have a higher high. But we're going to need another big narrative to get us into 1-2 to finally take this high. Let's see what we can find. So RSI not looking great. So RSI doesn't like that idea, doesn't like the 1-to-1. It's saying at the moment, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just below the lost support. So I'm going to stay there and chill. And the price is saying, yeah, but I'm doing higher highs and we have a double bottom. So that there's that mismatch there. Longs versus shorts are in the median. So there is no alpha. There is no, oh, we are too many or we are too little. And let's see liquidation levels on ADA. So at least you take away something. Sometimes there's nothing in a chart. But that's why we have so many coins to trade. We don't need to trade one coin. And we have this liquidation of $1. There's very little liquidations below the price. And there is a good chunk in here that starts from 77 to 90 cents. After that, there is almost nothing. And let's imagine we go to there. What pattern will we build if we get there? Nothing that I can think of. And at the top, that 1.2 is definitely a level to take away all the way to 133. So that is a great area for profit taking if we see weakness around this area and you want out of ADA. That could be a great alternative, just to wait for that. Typically, when we get here, everybody's going to be saying, no, we're going to $5. And you're going to have to decide at that point whether $5 is worth waiting more or you just get out. In this market, it's been great to take profits in areas like this, but that's because this market sucks. If this market was like 2021 and I take profits at 1.2, the day after this coin is $20. And I'm like, what? But this market really sucks. So therefore, being conservative and paranoid is the best approach so far. But there might be a moment in 2025 where it's not. So we need to be on the lookout for that. Signs of that will be liquidity is pumping like crazy. Gold is going down. Dollar is going down. And all the other ones. And if that's the case, well, maybe we kind of ignore the 1.2 and we let it ride. Another reason is if we get to 1.2 and there's way larger liquidations at $2, we might decide to wait for the $2 in that case. Right. Next coin, ADA, Link, and then TRAC. And how much time we have? We have like 12 minutes. Let me make a break in here and go into some of the questions that you left in Patreon. Let me open a tab in here. I think some of you left questions. Right. So the first question is, where is the link? Great question. The second question is, I will try my best to attend. Can we use the hash ribbons only for Bitcoin? Can we use it on stocks? Does it work in different timeframes? So hash ribbons is an on-chain metric that uses the hash of Bitcoin, the hash rate of Bitcoins. Therefore, it's Bitcoin. And I used to think that I can use it on the daily or on the weekly, but I think it is meant to be used on the daily. Yeah, hash rate is published also on daily. So if you go below, then your data is screwed. That is using data from into the block. You can decide what data to use here, the source. You can use the hash rate from Quandle or into the block. I think both of them are on the daily, so you're meant to be using it on the daily. Yeah, unfortunately, it's just this. I don't know if there is an equivalent for other coins that also have a hash rate information and stuff like that. I never have looked into that. So honest question is, I don't know on other crypto. On stocks, definitely not. There is no concept of hash rate. Next question. I think that's the last question that I can see. If I miss a question, guys, I'm sorry, and I will reply privately. And let's go with the next coin, which is Link. Let's look at the news. Chainlink launches multi-stream, major scalability upgrade for data stream. And then nothing else. The rest are for other things. 3 days ago, 640K Chainlink withdrawn from exchanges. So that is bullish, sure. And I have a setup on Link, and I suspect that today we're going to find a good setup bullish. And just by a quick look in here. So we have areas here where everybody was short. That was at the price of $6. Then we have a huge accumulation that lasts until September at the same price of $6, $7. and then we pump into 22. There was another touch in here of that area. The first time was the white line, the second line was the yellow line. Now it's the white line again. And there's just too many shorts where we are. And we have come back down from 78 back for a retest. Ideally, you do the retest after the breakout, not after reaching the full top. But yeah, and neither breaking down that line. Okay. But my setup was after losing this, if we come to this line, then I move revenge into 55, 56. And let's put the number 55, 56. And let's go to the price action. And I left an entry at $13 that has already gone to around $15. It's from the support of these head and shoulders in here, is the resistance of the accumulation in October before the pump. And now we are right there at that support, 12.77. And the setup was to go into $21. That is still standing there. You can see that the RSI reverse is right there at $21. So this target is still valid. Again, that is a shorter swing. If you want longer targets, I think it's an area of value both on RSI and on this one. So look for entries. I'm not going to tell you where to enter precisely by the dollar. You need to find your own support, whether you want to buy now, you miss out. You decide how you manage your risk too. The flag, if there is such a thing as a flag in here, it's taking all this projection into this low. It's pointing at $32. And the extension from the $5 to here and then to this correction there is giving, well, the 26 that we already reached, and the 1618 is 37. So $37, $38. And actually, let me do an up-to-date extension from here to here, and then this one. So that is in confluence with the 33 because it's the same projection. And then a target of $50. I'm going to leave the $50 there to make sure we have a bullish target. It's good to have a bullish target because if markets get very bullish and we need to, know where do we want to take profits. Well, if we get very bullish, I will say between $35 to $50, you are looking for your profit. Some people are going to say, but how come you're taking profits before the previous all-time high when so many coins from that cycle have already taken out the all-time high? Aren't you bullish enough on Chainlink? Well, yes, but when are we going to do that? Because, we have 2026 incoming in here, and I think it's a stretch to start thinking that we need to take profits, let's say in April 2026. That's too risky to advance into the idea of we are already in a bear market at that point. So profits are to be taken in here. If it didn't happen around here, it's very low likely we're going to get it in 2026. So those are the targets. Bullish. Am I missing something? Let's see. Liquidity for Link. I'm sure they have Link, not on swing, but oh, it's not here either. I thought I saw it. Am I blind? No, I'm okay. Link. And let's do a longer term. So for liquidations, price of 12.6. Yeah, that there is a risk of going there. Where did we visit that? Well, that was recent. And we have already started rallying. So we are leaving behind that risk at 12.6. If you are in a position, keep an eye on that. Where is your risk? If we do the 3 months, so we have $20. There's a decent chunk there to be liquidated. I'm getting itchy to add a little bit to Link. and to take profits at 20 and do just a swing. Because of what I say, there's so many shorts there, and RSI is meeting with this line, and we've been defending on the weekly higher highs, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it will be great if around here, that is the area of value. So there leave room, right? So we are now at 44, but the area of value is around 44 to 41. Be a little bit ambiguous. Don't just enter. Oh, he says the area of value today. I'm gonna buy all my life savings in Link, and then suddenly we go to 41, and you did with leverage. Well, that will be really silly. I don't mean that. TRAC. Let's go with TRAC unless there's any questions on Link. No questions on Link. By the way, guys, if you're liking this stream, let me know in the comments. But I actually prefer that you send me a private message. If you don't want to say publicly, you can say publicly. I don't mind criticism. If you want to say privately, send me a message. But I want to know what will make this better value for you. Of course, that is the first priority for me. I want you guys to take value out of this. And if you think that changing something will make it a lot better, let me know, please. The first person that wants to know. So this is a TRAC, and I'm hoping I'm doing the TA in the right symbol, because there was also this TRAC in here that is no sense. It's at 0.4. This one is at 0.38, but they have completely different price action. And in just a couple of minutes, I was able to identify these moves in there on the RSI, and I put vertical lines at the times that I'm seeing the actual breakout. Breakout there, and breakout is currently ongoing. It's not confirmed because this, well, we could say it's confirmed because it's likely there. Okay, let's say one more week of wait. If this week we are with a candle pointing up above the white line, that will turn into a confirmed breakout. So far, it's not. It's just in progress. Let's look at the price action, and let's see what happened on each of those occasions. That is one breakout. This breakout here went up, but then it went sideways and even lower to 43, and you will have entered at 57. That will put you in a drawdown of 23%. But then there is an upside of 112. So if you are with a 2x, that will be you're 44% down. If you're on a 3x, you are 66, and so on. Eventually, at 4 or 5x, you are liquidated with this drawdown. It's just too much. And in this area in here, we are below the previous area of accumulation. What I don't like is that it couldn't take out the highs of March. So it looks like in a downtrend, because we have a high, low, lower highs, and lower lows. So what else? And we also broke support. And what else? And we have the breakout. But it's a mixed bag again, because you can tell that since May 2023, the areas that this coin was using for accumulations were using a support of 39. And now we are 2 points below. Have we been below? Yeah, sometimes, but we recover quickly. So I would like this week, ideally, at the closing price of this week, as I say, to be at 40, 41 on the weekly. And that will be promising, although as promising as this, that also can have a 23% fair amount of drawdown. And also consider that given that we haven't given here a lower high, be prepared with a diminished, return. And I'm talking about, be careful when we reach that area, when we are about to get as high as that previous high, because there might be an intention of people to distribute again and front run the previous high of the momentum. That can happen sometimes, unless there's a huge narrative around the corner coming in for this coin that I'm not aware. This is AI. So I suspect that AI is doing crap as well because of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is kind of a Titanic that once it goes, it sinks in the sea. It kind of takes everything with it. So when people are trading AI coins, they are usually looking at what's going on with NVIDIA and with big tech, because they're part of the same bag. And if they perform, these ones are going to perform. And at the moment, NVIDIA is in a bad territory, I will say. So careful with that. So we can get that rally, but treat the rally careful once you get into that area of diminish momentum. So that's TRAC. And Ethereum, I cover it extensively in a video. So I'm going to just give you the delta, the thing that is new today. If you want to get the full perspective on Ethereum, watch the dedicated video of Ethereum. And we haven't broken out on the weekly. We're still below the resistance. I'm looking for a rally like this that can get us into 3.2 now. It used to be 3.5 last week. But the resistance is at 37. And 37 must be really close to the price, though. It doesn't require much move up. We went beyond the 2000. Now we are back below the 2000. And that, well, we were already breaking out this week, and we are being rejected from that. We were over 2000, and we retraced to 1959. Not a lot, but it's a rejection. And if we break above 2000 and we close the week above 2000, that will be great. So far, it's not happening. What happened with the longs? Well, the longs increased in this area, just like it did in this one. This is the area of value. This is the area where we look for accumulation, and we're looking for a breakout into this direction for profit taking longer term than just a swing. What else am I missing? Well, it's horrible, Ethereum, but hopefully the narrative that everybody's saying, Ethereum becoming more bullish thanks to quantitative easing eventually coming. And you can see as soon as they started mentioning, quantitative easing, and all these influencers over inflating the news, it's gone. Quantitative tightening, it's absolutely gone from today. That's what they were saying. And they catch a lot of flies flying low, and they buy this argument. They buy Ethereum, it goes into 2000, and then it gets rejected. That's because it still hasn't happened. It starts in April, and it's just the first step. And then we need to be realistic. XRP has been bullish, and I've said that the difference between being bullish and bearish is to go beyond the 2.4. Last week, we saw a rejection. This week, we went slightly higher to 259. There's some bullish news on XRP. There always are, because of the XRP army. They get so many articles out there of everything is amazing about XRP. Is going to go to $50,000. And you can see that we are at 241, 1 more cent, and we are below the resistance. So watch out for that, because this looks too much like a head and shoulder. So if we end the week below 240, that reduces the chances that we're going to break out, and it increases the chances that that becomes confirmed as resistance. Remember, here it went all the way down to 174 and got bought up above 240. So now we are approaching that, and we are testing, can we go beyond that? And you can do the same. You can do as high as 2.8. But if you see a rejection and close weekly below 2.4, then we are in trouble, just like the shorts were in trouble taking shorts in here, because this went back up to $3 after. So that one there can go back down below $2 too. And then get a candle close below $2 on XRP. And we put on the table the targets of 134 and 77, which I don't think is that likely, but at least the 1.3, that area around there. And XRP is now rallying against resistance here. This week, the role of XRP, the task at hand is to reclaim this as support. but you can see so far this week is not there. And there are less longs. With every single move, we are losing the longs, and that is good. But the area of value, I think, is around here, around this support. If I ever consider to enter, let's assume I don't have any bias negative against this coin, I will look for orders like this around there. All right, so I think that was it. I'm going to just read your comments. Thank you, Mariano. This is really useful, just learning the way you are analyzing the chart. Christos saying, yes, these private TA are great. One thing that I could incorporate on the next one is to invite you to chat with me with audio during the stream to ask specific questions. Yeah, I mean, let me know if that will be something that you will be interested in doing. Many of you are just listening to this from work, so you cannot really talk or stuff like that. So I completely understand, but I want to give you the best value possible. Thanks so much for joining. Next week, tomorrow, you're going to receive an article that says, here's the video, you can watch it. You already have the link, but I'm going to send you the link to the next poll for next week, which is going to be at the same time, same day in the week, and I'll see you there. Always remember to vote for your coins and to write down the questions down below in the articles I'm sending. See you next time. Take care.